In this video, we are blue sky armchair imagineering it today, and it's all about Moana. The Italiano had a very, very interesting idea in regards to Moana and Walt Disney World. We're going to discuss his idea. Is it possible? Would it work? Up next on this episode of OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. This is the Italiano. This is OG. Young blood, but I'm built like an OG. There we go. There we go. George, it is always good to have you back, sir. Armchair Imagineering, some Moana today. Very interesting idea that we'll kind of talk about. But if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There he is. All right, let's dive into this. So Moana is the queen of Disney Plus. She is I'm telling you, I mean, these numbers, for Moana are out of control good. They're doing a sequel, which I think will do really well. really, really well. They're doing a live action Moana remake. I don't know how that one's going to do. We'll see. I don't know. The live action thing, I think might be wearing out a little bit with the general public, but the animated sequel, I think will do very, very well. But I don't want to digress too much, but Moana is a very, very popular franchise for Disney. It's a powerhouse at this point. George, you approached me a few days ago with an interesting idea on how to fix a problem at Walt Disney World, or an emerging problem, so to speak. If you want to kind of elaborate that, and we'll kind of talk about it.
Absolutely. So one of the main, I feel, operational issues going on with Walt Disney World, and not to Disney's fault, but I feel like even with the fans, the public, and the guests that cross over through the gates of the most magical place on earth, if you will, and that is with Disney World's water parks.
Right.
There are two of them that are in the resort: Disney's Blizzard Beach Water Park and Disney's Typhoon Lagoon Water Park. And I actually got this epiphany of that. A lot of times, I remember the water parks at some point in time where they both were in operations at the same time. They both were opened together. Then COVID happened, the shutdown, and they started doing this kind of rotation, like with the refurbs and everything, and maintenance wise, where if Blizzard Beach was open, Typhoon Lagoon was closed, and vice versa. And even when you have one of the water parks opened, they get people through the turnstiles, but not as much as the theme parks go. Now, one can argue to say, it's a water park. Water parks really aren't that big in attraction wise to lure guests into the gates.
Yeah, and it feels very ancillary, very like add-on. It's an add-on to. It's
Correct.
Not like the priority for a vacation.
Correct. So if you have like extra time, extra days to fill in your Walt Disney World vacation, why not add a day or two to the water parks? I've been to both water parks. I enjoy them. But to be fair, there have been times where Disney refurbished both water parks. They added some of the Frozen element to Blizzard Beach and added some new additions to Typhoon Lagoon as well. But I feel like a lot of the times that they have a cohesive storyline, but yet at the same time, they seem a bit outdated because the generalized notion of, a storm blew in through Central Florida onto this kind of ski resort. A blue gator decided to open it up. It started melting, turned it into this kind of like hybrid of a ski resort and a water park, what have you. Typhoon Lagoon, a boat wrecked. And there's like a whole other, I don't really know too much of the storyline, shows how much that I really care, but but that's just it for me being a diehard Disney fan, how that correlates with me. And is that going to really correlate with a normie? Are they really going to care? So I actually got to thinking, and I was actually watching a YouTube video, video of I don't know if anyone out there has heard of them. It's called the Mammoth Club. Shout out to Molly. She does a phenomenal work with her channel. She used to be part of another team involved with Disney. She's been on YouTube for many years, and I just love her content and everything. But her and her husband were at Volcano Bay, and she was telling like the whole background story of like what Volcano Bay represents at Universal, by the way, I should say, Orlando. And she's going through this whole storyline, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I thought, well, that was like a very like in-depth synopsis, like something that I would have never even thought of. But I guess she did her research, as Molly does, because she's just phenomenal at it. And I thought,
does she make it look easy, George?
She makes it look easy.
There you go. Sorry.
So no, you're good. So coming down to it, what does this have to do with Moana, you may ask? Well, I was thinking because of the storyline of Moana has so much to do with water. Water plays an intricate part in the story. Basically, the water is its own character.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I thought with Disney being, how they are with storytelling and kind of revitalizing the water parks in a new way, what if Disney took one of the current water parks and completely revamped it, kept it as a water park, but set the whole base tone around the whole theme of Moana? So you basically would have an entire water park of Moana. You can have the water slides named after Moana. You could have the overall aesthetics of the theme from the movie. Obviously, as you had mentioned, OG, we're getting Moana 2, and we're getting the live action rendition of the original. So there's a lot to play with. So there could be so much integrated into the water park. And because subconsciously and psychologically for a normie to say, oh my gosh, there's a water park that's literally, it's all Moana. And Moana, as you had said, is the queen of Disney Plus right now. Yeah. I mean, she's bringing out, as our friend Kaylee says, banger numbers, and I think it would revitalize some pulse to the water parks. And even
now, which one would you do? Which one do you think could incorporate the Moana kind of overlay, so to speak, better?
I think honestly, to save time and money, but where they can kind of integrate it much better, I think would be Typhoon Lagoon, because you already kind of have that South Pacific tropical kind of like oasis kind of thing, where they can easily integrate it in more, where they can kind of keep Blizzard Beach and kind of have like some of the subtle themes to Frozen. I think that would be, for me, that would be the best route to go. Is Disney going to do this? Probably not. This isn't even part of circulation, folks. This is just coming from the Italiano's mind of like, what could they possibly do, of me thinking as an Imagineer, as for Blue Sky process. But this is something that I would consider on doing.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you real quick. Sorry to interrupt, George. I have a question for you, because I haven't been to the water parks. We didn't do those when we went this last time.
Right.
Do they have like outdoor like little bars and stuff? Because like I know Castaway Cay had I mean we were frequenting a lot of those little stands,
yes.
And getting drinks and what have you. I still have my mug right there, or my what would you call it? Sipper, I guess. I don't know.
Sipper, yeah.
Yeah,
tiki sipper.
The tiki sipper. Do they have those at Typhoon Lagoon?
Yes, they do. They have like little outdoor like vendor bars and stuff that you can get like alcoholic beverages, non-alcoholic beverages, and like type of like frozen desserts and stuff like that.
Because I think that's an opportunity. I'm putting my IP flywheel hat on, because if you're from Disney's perspective, that's an opportunity to have like a lot of really cool creative, like Moana themed specialty drinks and cocktails, special themed food options, themed towards Moana.
And it's funny that you say that because actually, when I was at Typhoon Lagoon, they had a specialty ice cream, which was a Hey Hey ice cream. And it was like a soft serve raspberry ice cream. And it was like shaped and designed to look like the head of Hey Hey.
See, they can do stuff like that. They can expand upon that whole thing because, there's money to be made with that, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, I think people enjoy that stuff. I mean, it's like that Trader Sam's kind of thing. People like the specialty mugs and when it has a theme and Disney seems to do that stuff very, very well. So with Moana, I mean, it's like, there's so much you can kind of pull from with that franchise,
Absolutely. Now, folks, you could be saying, George, okay, what if you do like Moana in the water parks, would this take away from Disney doing an e-ticket attraction possibly at Magic Kingdom? Absolutely not. I think honestly, Disney sees the numbers that Moana is pulling in, and I think if they would pull out all the stops, they would put in the e-ticket attraction at Magic Kingdom. They have the journey of what is it? Journey of water, journey into water, journey about water, journey something about water, inspired by Moana at Epcot. And then of course you would have the water park fully designed like Moana. And a lot of people could think, that's somewhat of overkill with an IP, but I think if you had the same IP in one park with multiple attractions, then you could say, okay, that's going a little bit overboard. But I think if you had separate individual kind of notations for the IP, you have one as an e-ticket, one as a walkthrough, one as a water park, and Walt Disney World's huge as it is. So, I mean, you have a different experience, each day that you're staying there with Moana.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I mean, you have Frozen represented in Blizzard Beach, but then you have Frozen Ever After in Epcot. I mean, I don't think that's, terrible. I think you can do that. And especially at Walt Disney World too, because Disney World, these experiences are very much like here at Disneyland Resort, DCA and Disneyland are like, you're kind of going back and forth a lot in the day. You know what I'm saying? It's like just, feet away from each other. And a lot of people just walk back and forth and park hop and do their thing. At Walt Disney World, though, it's a much harder situation to do any of that. So you dedicate really a whole day usually to like the water park and a whole day to the theme park. And so you're not experiencing all these different Moana elements from various parks in one day. And I think that matters too, Okay, so when we go to the water park on Monday, it's Moana, but then we have a park day on Tuesday, a park day on Wednesday. We don't experience Epcot till the next day. So there's a few days in between. We're not getting any Moana. It kind of separates a little bit. Here at Disneyland, it would be different. If you had a huge Moana thing at Disneyland and then a Moana thing in DCA, because you do park hop so much, it does feel a little bit more, if that makes sense,
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that Disney could integrate, and I get it, fans are probably saying enough with the IPs already, but you know what? Disney had already mentioned the notion this is the route that they're going. So if this is the route that they're going, rather than kind of complain about it and throw a tantrum about it, just embrace it and accept it, because guess what? At the end of the day, you're probably, if you're a diehard Disney fan, you're going to go and experience it anyway. So you might as well have fun with it.
Exactly. And this is the same argument I have when it comes to screen rides. We had a great conversation the other day with our friend Drew, the Disney dude, right? We touched upon screens, and fans like to demonize screens. Like anything with screens is bad. Big screen bad, basically, right? And it's like, no, it's all about the execution. When's it appropriate? How you use it, right? That's what makes all the difference in the world. Same thing here, with IP, same thing. It's like IP isn't in and of itself bad. Some of the best stuff that has come out of Disney has been IP. The Indiana Jones Adventure, Star Tours, Rise of the Resistance, Radiator Springs Racers, all of those are IP, okay? Now you have non-IP stuff like Superstar Limo, which isn't really technically an IP. You have Rocket Rods and a lot of stuff that has like really flopped and failed and has been really weak and had no IP to it. So it's execution, 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 you know? And to be fair, you've had a lot of non-IP stuff that have done amazing, you know, like Pirates and Haunted Mansion didn't start out as IP. So it's all about the execution. So yes, look, I get it, fandom. You don't want IP, but that, like George was saying, that's the direction of this company. That's the direction of the entire industry. Universal's going all in on the IP too, and they have forever. We just have to accept it. That's where they're going with it. And all we can do now is push for the best quality possible. So, and this is a cool idea. I like having a Moana water park. The idea of this kind of water-based IP as a water park, I think fits really well. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. And I do feel, you know, it could be far-fetched. It could be far down the pipeline. Disney may not have even thought of this idea, but Disney, if you're watching, you can take it. I'll allow you. Just maybe if you want to just,
you know,
yeah,
for a
maybe
small,
just a small little bit, you know,
well, you
and
know.
then maybe like in the sign, maybe have like Moana water park inspired by the Italiano.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, if Disney does consider this, it's not really that far fetched because with the approval of allowing them to have the investment of $17 billion to be put into the Walt Disney World Resort over the next 2 decades. I mean, there's a lot to play with there. And I mean, one of the notions could be a complete overlay of the water parks, because quite frankly, they're okay, which I think they're pulling in the right amount of numbers for a water park. But I think that they could be doing much better traction as far as getting people in there if they do a complete overhaul and something that's just as embracing and popular as Moana.
Why do you think they decided to do this whole like one park open, one park closed thing? Like, is it like, do you think there might be a demand problem with these parks? Maybe
I think it's part of it. I could be wrong. That's just my own take on it of speculation. I feel that it's costly to have both parks up running at the same time, especially again if the demand really isn't there, and they're just not hitting the marks that Disney wants it to, and they kind of take it as, okay, it's a win-win. We could save money, but we could also kind of fix things up and spruce them up while one park is in operations. The other one could be down for maintenance and refurbishment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And Volcano Bay moved in a few years ago. It's been a little while now, actually. That might have hurt the water parks a little bit because now you got 3 big parks in the Orlando area, at least from the big 2 companies, you know?
Right. Not to mention Volcano Bay is a more newer water park compared to Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach.
Have you been to Volcano Bay yet?
I have.
No?
Yes, I have.
Is it better, dare I say, than the Disney World?
There are certain aspects.
Be careful. You don't want to lose your special access, George. Be careful.
True. That is true. Especially from Mr. Bob, excuse me, Sir Bob Iger, if you will.
Exactly.
But for me, there are certain aspects of Volcano Bay that are better than Disney's water parks, like the Tapu Tapu, which is basically like a Disney magic band that you can kind of save your spot for a popular water slide or a water attraction, that it'll actually go off as a sensor to say when your time is ready for you to experience the attraction.
So it's kind of like those little buzzers you get when you're waiting in line for a restaurant. They buzz you when your table's ready. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of the times you don't have to carry your raft or your inner tube up the stairs. I know that's, sometimes quite annoying. That's what Volcano Bay does, I think, very well. But there are aspects of Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, that I love. I love Typhoon Lagoon's wave pool. I love the Crush and Gusher kind of water coaster. Blizzard Beach, I love the toboggan racers. I love the Teamboat Springs raft ride. So but I feel like tying in an IP with an already kind of things that I enjoy, that sometimes it's a small little tweak that all it takes is just wrapping a popular IP around something, and it can get people to kind of turn their heads and notice it again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Moana is a great IP. I love the Polynesian culture and that whole, I think you can do a lot with that. It's really is a perfect franchise for a water park.
Yeah.
And it seems like Moana. I mean, I know we're still kind of early, I mean, Moana isn't really even a decade old yet, but it seems like it's a franchise that's here to stay. It seems like it's becoming a Disney classic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna fall off dramatically. I think it's here to stay. It's like a Frozen. I mean, Frozen's been here for over a decade now. It's just as popular now as it was before, I
Yeah,
think.
I feel with Moana, it be Frozen when Frozen opened, it was a cultural phenomenon from the get go. I feel like Moana did very well, at the box office. She became very popular, but it was a slower climb up the ladder, but is eventually reaching Frozen status.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah, Moana was more of a slow burn, absolutely, but she's getting there. She's getting
Yes.
there. And I think she's adorable. I think it
Yeah.
really is a fun
But the real
franchise.
question is, how far will she go?
That is a great question, George. That's a fantastic question. So now, okay, so Typhoon Lagoon will become the Moana park. Now, for Blizzard Beach, do you think that maybe, or is it maybe it's too ballsy, but like, should they do an entire Frozen park for that one?
Now,
Or is
speaking
that,
of now speaking of that, because I had mentioned that Frozen is a culture phenomenon and what have you, I think it could be done well. I think if they did something where, because they already kind of integrated some of the characters into some of the aspects of Blizzard Beach, if they turned that into a complete water park for Frozen, I think would be kind of detrimental to the water park and to the Frozen franchise, because I feel that Frozen has a little bit more of a prestige look, like with the Kingdom of Arendelle and the and
that's
everything
fair.
around it, where Moana is more already outside
Yeah.
in the Pacific on an island. It kind of
Hmm.
fits that outdoor kind of theme, where it's like if you take the aspects of a kingdom, but you're going to transform it into a water park, I think that kind of throws it out of it, gets lost in
Yeah.
translation.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. Yeah, Moana fits much more organically, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. And now, do you think the water parks are here to stay? Is there a scenario in your head, George, where that maybe one of these closes down, or
Well, what I find interesting too. Now, speaking of the deal that Disney had made with the oversight district about putting out 17 billion for 20 plus years into the resort, that it had mentioned in the agreement that there could eventually be a fifth gate for Walt Disney World, uh, or two smaller parks,
interesting?
which that's like the equivalence. I think it was like breaking down like of like the price tag of what Disney would be investing. It is the same like price value for one big park and two small parks, and they kind of use the examples of the water parks and Disney Springs. So I'm wondering if that's not necessarily a addition, but more of a replacement
That's interesting. So, oh, that's interesting. So, replacing these water parks with
with something else that's more uh,
traditional
traditional.
traditional theme park,
Yeah,
but smaller.
but smaller.
Now, how many acres are these? Are these like Disneyland size? Because I know everything's bigger in Florida. So, like your water
Right.
parks, are they like Disneyland size?
Um, I
Or
don't
maybe
know
not
the
that
exact
crazy.
acreage. I don't. They well,
What do they feel? Do they feel like a Disneyland or maybe a DCA? Like
I would
maybe
say like a
roughly.
DCA.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say more like of a DCA. Now, as I said, now I could be completely wrong on that, because there are times where something may seem smaller, but it's really bigger. you
Yeah.
know, um, but I would say like a DCA. I'd say even in between, like DCA and Disneyland, like in
Okay.
between that acreage. Yeah. So I don't know, like if they would consider doing something kind of like what Universal's doing with the park in Texas, but rather than have it completely separate in a different resort or a different
State.
state, just to kind of incorporate maybe something a little bit smaller. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not sure. Like that's just an idea. I think that's a little bit more far fetched than actually turning one of the water parks into Moana. But I just find it interesting because they said it would be up to the same par as the water parks or a Disney Springs like area, and they said they would have enough room and I guess funding for two of them because we know
That's
how
interesting.
Sir Bob Iger is. He doesn't do one; he does two.
Exactly. Well, it might be like a whole new concept in entertainment where it's like this kind of this mix of like theme park elements and shopping, and maybe there's no, I don't know. They might kind of
Not
have
at
this,
like not at like an actual title, but more like of a hybrid.
yeah, like this hybrid kind of new concept, that, I think there's possibilities there they might dabble with. So that's interesting, man. That's interesting. We'll see. I love the Moana idea though. I really, really do. I'm like, we got to do a video on this because I think that's a really, really smart idea. I don't think it would be too expensive for them to kind of like, transform that. Cause like you said, is a lot of like that tropical sort of vibe going on already with Typhoon Lagoon. You can do you can switch it over, I think, fairly easy. So we'll see.
Yeah,
But
because you could even do like the for Typhoon Lagoon, like you have like the volcanic mountain where the
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 boat.
shipwreck is. You can kind of take that out and put in like I know it's cliche to put in another volcano, and people will say, okay, well they're kind of imitating Volcano Bay, but the difference is they can add the oh gosh, the name of the lava creature.
Tahiti, Tafiti. I
But
always forget her
Tafiti, yeah,
name.
but it's I forget. Tafiti is like when she is like the green god.
Right.
Taka. Is it
Oh,
Taka?
you're talking about the with the
The
lava and the whole thing.
volcano.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So they can kind of like incorporate that, but they could also add like another rendition of Tafiti into that. So I mean, there's a lot that they can incorporate, and then we don't even know what's going to be involved with Moana 2. There could be even more bigger, better aspects that they can incorporate into a water park.
Yeah. No, exactly. Interesting stuff. Yeah, Disney needs to look at the water parks though. I think they might need to kind of address those.
Yeah.
Um, if the demand is waning and to the point where they have to alternate the openings, you got to do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. And as I said, I think with the investment of the 17 billion, which again, I'm still very confused about are is the 17 billion dollar investment tied to the 30 billion investment with the overall parks, or is that something that's completely different?
Yeah, it's
Are
very
they two
unclear.
different?
It's very unclear if it's part of that 60 billion or really the 30 billion when you kind of, when you're just talking about the parks. 17 is a big chunk of 30.
Yes.
I'm not great at math. Math has never been my strong suit, but I know that much. I know it's a big chunk. It's so that would be hard because you'd have to spread that to Disneyland as well. And Ken Potrock said he is bullish on that. So you're kind of limiting what you can do for Disneyland and even some of these international parks when you spend so much at Walt Disney World. It's got to be from a different bucket. It's got to be.
Yeah. I'm wondering like if they end up taking maybe like 5 billion out of that 30 billion and add it to the 17 billion just so Disney World gets a little chunk out of it, and then the remaining 25 billion could be dispersed to Disneyland and Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. We'll see. I'm very curious how they allocate these funds. I said before with Disneyland's fine for a while, in my opinion. But someone actually made a great comment in actually one of our videos recently where I think it was like yesterday, because we were saying Disneyland is okay, right? I'd rather them do Disneyland or I'm sorry, we would rather them do DCA. And if they were going to touch Disneyland, do like Tomorrowland, right? That needs it. But this commenter, and I forgot the person's name, and I do apologize, but this the comment we had was like, well, if they want to close down Tomorrowland, though, they'd probably want to have a Disneyland expansion ready to offset the loss of Tomorrowland being shut down. That's a great point.
That is true. And I've touched upon that many times because if you're going to shut down an entire land and you're going to knock out a big heavy hitter like Space Mountain, you're going to want to have to offset that land. So, yeah, so making a fantasy spring style land, or Arendelle, or Tangled, or even Moana. They may go the route where they may add Moana into Disneyland, because she does have a meet and greet, which I think is quite interesting, that she was taking photos outside of right across from the Alice in Wonderland dark ride.
Yeah, and that's interesting. That's interesting placement, I think. She seems more Adventureland to me.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Because we'd said before, a lot of times Disney will sort of test, like beta test, like what franchise works in what areas. Like we have the Zootopia characters in DCA for a long time, in that, like that bathroom row, the Bay Area row with the, so I think they're testing, like in that general proximity, does that work? Or in that park, does it work? But Moana in Fantasyland, though, that's weird. I would think that they would be more interested in an Adventureland. I don't know. That's fascinating, though. We'll see where that goes, but I don't know. But I'm open for Moana, anything out here in California. But it would work better probably in Disneyland. Although I can kind of see it too in DCA, because it has like that beach vibe.
True.
For DCA, I don't know.
Like going to the beach, like how the California locals do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because there's some IPs that sort of they don't hit all the boxes for like a theme, but they hit enough of them where I'm like, I think that works. So, for example,
I was gonna
say, for example, Radiator Springs Racers is Arizona, technically. Right. But Car Culture and Route 66 are two California things. So even though it's Arizona, it has enough California in it to justify. Little Mermaid, European fairy tale, but the ocean and all that, very beachy. So it's like, okay, it's enough California to justify, even though it's European. Same with Moana. It's like, technically it's not California, it's Polynesian, but with the beach and that kind of vibe, the ocean, it kind of fits California.
Could that be a nice integration between Pandora and vice versa? Because the Pandora that you guys are going to be getting is a rendition of The Way of Water.
Right.
So you can kind of integrate that a little bit into not necessarily the setting of where these films take place, but just the backdrops. You
can bulldoze my favorite land, Pixar Pier. You can bulldoze Pixar Pier and put a Moana thing all the way around that bay. Oh, I'd love that. I would love that. And then from that you go over the bridge and you go into Pandora or something. They'll never do that. I'm just throwing it out there. I think they need to get rid of Pixar Pier. I've said it before, but it's an unpopular opinion. A lot of fans like Pixar Pier. I think it's a little too amusement parky, and it kind of solidifies that park as a locals thing. And I think Disney wants more tourism. And I think if you have a lot of amusement park style rides, you're handicapping the park. That's just my opinion. But a lot of people like Incredicoaster and stuff, so I get it.
I am gonna get a shirt made for you, and there's gonna be like certain words that you say, and I'm gonna add a Y onto it, like with a little dash. Amusement parky. You say like a couple other things. I have to go back, and then down at the bottom, do my all-time favorite, Parmigiani. That's
Parmigiani, yeah, exactly. I've said Star Warsy a few times.
Star Warsy, yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
But George, great conversation, very interesting stuff. The future of the water parks, I think, is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but it needs to be talked about, because I agree with you. I think demand is waning, and they gotta at least reimagine these parks, and Moana would be a good way to do it. Or even get rid of them and give us some new concept in themed entertainment.
I think a lot of people are, as you said, they're leaning by the wayside, so to speak. People are forgetting about them. And again, people keep on talking about, Walt Disney World needs a fifth gate. That they need to make a fifth gate. They need to answer to Universal's Epic Universe and what have you. And we keep on saying, not right now. We think that Disney. Well, not we think, we know Disney should really focus on the 4 current theme parks, but we're also forgetting, even as Disney fans, let's not even forget about the 2 water parks that are even getting less attention than the 4 theme parks.
And maybe Josh D'Amaro will surprise us at the fan event, the D23 fan event. Maybe we'll get some news on this. You never know. I have a feeling we're going to get some announcements, at least a few that are really, really surprising. you know?
Like kind of catch us like off guard, like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but that's clever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no one saw San Francisco coming to DCA. No one saw that coming. And that's not like an amazing thing or anything, but I thought it turned out pretty cute and it's popular. And there was no rumor, nothing for that. He just announced it. So maybe it'll be like that with the water parks. There's a whole new thing that we're going to get, or maybe we'll get more, and just blue sky and what if.
How many more fairy tale stories about your life till we had it?
Who knows? No, hopefully not. Hopefully not. I don't think so, though. I don't. We talked about it a few videos ago, but I think Josh is going to deliver this time.
Yeah.
If not for the fans, it will be for his career. Right. He's on the short list to be CEO, and he's going to want to hit a home run.
Yep. And he's gonna want that. He's gonna want that sword knighting, just like Bob Iger.
Yeah, I know. Sir, Daddy Josh. That's interesting though about Bob Iger getting knight. Is it knighted? I guess I don't know.
I think he got. Yeah, I think he got knighted. So a lot of people are saying. I guess it's Sir Bob Iger now. So.
Oh man. That's wild.
Just another one off his checklist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Italiano, fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your great idea and talking shop with me. If you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you can find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go. Comment down below with everything that we discussed today. Moana, a Moana water park. Would you be down for that? Would you be down for getting rid of the water parks and bringing a whole new themed kind of concept to replace the water parks? Maybe not necessarily a theme park, but some other themed idea that can kind of replace these. We would love to hear from you. This is the Italiano. I'm OG.
Don't blow, but I'm built like an OG.
Thank you for watching OG 55.
Like iced tea, I'm OG. Like iced tea, I'm OG. Like iced tea, I'm OG. I'm demon like IT. Got more juice than high C.